Okay, so today we're going to do a way different video than usual. I'm making gumbo today, and so I always get asked, hey, what's your recipe for that gumbo? And, you know, a really good gumbo doesn't really have a recipe. So I'm just going to make some videos today as I go through this process, but I'll show you what I got going on so far. So in this pot, I have a bunch of chicken. It's chicken breast and chicken thighs, all boneless, skinless, and there is a little bit of fat on that chicken, and I left it in there because I really want to have a nice chicken broth that's going to come out of this. When I go to make the gumbo to add the water to it later on, I'm going to use this water. I also have Hillshire Farm smoked sausage. A lot of Cajun recipes, and you know, if you go to Louisiana and you get gumbo, they might have andouille sausage or something like that. I'm not fond of that, so I don't use that. It's just like Hillshire Farm smoked sausage. And over here, I'm starting to cut up my vegetables, and I'm going to have 2 big stalks of green onions, 2 bell peppers, and that whole stalk of celery, or this whole thing of celery, leaves included. Everything's going to be in there. And then I'm also going to cut up a couple of onions to put in here. So, and the other vegetable that's going to be in it is going to be okra. And I'm also going to add a couple of cans of Rotel tomatoes. I'll add a big old can of diced tomatoes, a can of tomato paste, and some sauce. When it comes time, I will show you how we do the roux to start. But I'm just doing prep work right now. But if I remember, I'll grab my phone and do a video as we go. But I'm going to cut up all this stuff first. Okay, so part of our dinner tonight is going to be, so we're having gumbo with rice. I'm going to make some homemade French bread today. And then we're going to have a blackberry cobbler with ice cream for dessert. So, I got my chicken over on the stove boiling, and then we're going to go ahead and get this French bread going so that we can have that have my oven open and everything. It is going to be freezing cold the next few nights, and so we even have like a chance of snow, which is, you know, pretty rare in where we live. So we have a little bit of chance of snow this weekend. So anyway, I'm going to make a huge pot of gumbo, which, you know, I think it's impossible to make a small batch of gumbo. So we're going to make a big one, and then it freezes really nice, so we can eat on it tonight, and then I can freeze it, and then we can have it for later use. But anyway, so this is my Bosch mixer. I use my KitchenAid until it won't do much more than making a cheesecake anymore. So anyway, I'm going to show you how I make up this French bread. This is a recipe that I got I learned how to make this French bread from a lady named Heather at the Needy Homesteader. And it has just changed the way we do bread around here. So hold on one second, we'll get everything together and I'll show you how we make this French bread. Okay, so now we're going to make some French bread. Okay, so this is my Bosch mixer here. I have in the dough paddle and the side scraper. This machine is a game changer if you're a bread baker. Okay, so in the mixer I'm going to add 2 cups of water. I buy my yeast in bulk, and then I just keep it in the freezer. So I'm going to add a good tablespoon of instant yeast. This is the Saf brand. And I'm going to put it right back in the freezer. And to feed that yeast, I'm going to give it a tablespoon of unbleached pure cane sugar. And then for the French bread, I like to add 3 tablespoons of olive oil. This is a really nice cold pressed organic olive oil. And sometimes you might have to change the amount of flour or whatever that you put in depending on your weather and the temperature of your house and all that stuff. But we'll see how it goes. We might have to add a little extra flour. You don't want to add too much flour because you don't want it to be a super dense loaf. You want a real nice, fluffy, squishy French bread. Okay, and I'm using all-purpose, unbleached, organic, non-GMO flour. So the way you measure this flour is you want to kind of fluff it up and just shake it off. You don't want to pack it like you would brown sugar. So we're going to do 5½ cups of flour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5½. Okay. Alright, we'll set this aside. We are done with the flour. Okay, and then I'm going to take my lid and lock it on. And we're just going to start it out on the number 1 setting on the machine just to get stuff mixed up. Oh, we got to add salt, y'all. Can't forget to add the salt. And this is going to make a very large batch of bread. It's going to make 2 huge loaves. And so we're going to put in 2 teaspoons of salt. And this is pink Himalayan salt. You can use whatever salt you want. Alright, let's put this lid back on and crank it up. Okay, now that everything's kind of mixed up, so we just didn't want to have a big old flour cloud. We're going to crank it up to 2. And I'm just going to let it knead in here. I'm going to check on it before I start my timer. Once it gets to the consistency that I want it at, then we're going to crank this up, leave it on 2 and let it knead for 5 to 7 minutes. So I'm just going to check on it. It's a little bit dry today. So I'm just going to add a tad, just a touch more water. That was probably like a teaspoon. And instead of sitting here for 15 or 20 minutes kneading this by hand, I can just put it in this machine and it will knead it for me. I think that's going to be good enough. It's damp, so that should be good enough. So I'm going to let it all make into a nice ball, and then once it forms a nice ball in here, then I'm going to go ahead and start my 5-minute timer. So after the 5 minutes, I'll bring you right back. Okay, so I decided I actually want to make this a garlic. I'm going to put garlic in it. to make a garlic bread. So I'm going to take and add about a teaspoon of garlic powder to this. And see if I can find it. And I'm just going to add some Italian seasoning as well. We're going to make this a nice French or Italian bread. That'll be good with our gumbo. Let me see if I can take you down here. I'm not sure with my camera. I'm not good at this, y'all. Okay. And this gets really nice and warm, so as it's kneading it, it makes it super nice and cozy and warm in there. It's going to be waking up that yeast. Okay, let's take a look at it. Okay. This looks pretty good, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop this video or pause it and go ahead and do the 5-minute because this thing is loud, so I'll get it kneaded for a few minutes and then we'll come back. Okay, so while this is the bread's kneading, I just want to show you the chicken's cooking. It's all looking good. We're going to stir this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all this meat out of here. And then I'm going to strain out this broth. And I'm going to use this to make the gumbo. And then I'll just let this meat cool off, shred it up, get the fat out of it because nobody wants a big old chunk of fat in their mouth. So we get all that cleaned up. And then I will set this meat aside. And then over here, I finished cutting up my vegetables. And then this is the Southern Trio. This is bell peppers, onions, and celery. And I ended up using 3 bell peppers, a whole bunch of celery, 2 big stalks of green, like scallions or green topped onions, and 2 medium-sized yellow onions. So that's what's going to go in the gumbo. Got the bread kneading over here. Got about 4 minutes left on that. And my coffee pot is looking neglected, so I'm going to work on that while the bread's kneading. Be right back. Alright, we're getting all this meat out of this pot. Ooh, it smells like something good in here already. I wish y'all could smell this because it already smells good. Okay, I'm going to turn off this camera so my phone can defog. Be right back. Okay, so I got all the meat out of the pot. And we're just going to set this aside. I covered it with some plastic wrap because I don't want there to be a dry, crusty... I don't want that meat to dry out. So I've got it covered real good. I'm going to move this over here to the table where it can just start cooling off. I made an egg wash here. This is just 1 egg with about a tablespoon of really cold water. And we're going to use that to brush the top of the bread. And over here, coffee's almost done. Alright, and this ended up, I let this knead for about 7 minutes. And so, oh, it is so soft. It's super soft. Alright, so hold on 1 second. I'm going to get this out of this bowl. Okay, so now we're going to get this out. Now, if for some reason when you get to this point in the bread process, if the bread starts sticking to your counter or anything like that, you want to just add a thin layer of olive oil to your counter and don't add any more flour. Okay? Set that aside. And I'm going to try to get this right. Y'all can see. Okay, here we go. Alright, so now I'm just going to kind of just hand knead it just for a second. We're going to pull this into a real tight ball. And then we're going to just let it rest for about a half an hour. Okay, so I'm just doing it. It is super soft. Very nice. Okay. So then I'm just tucking it in like that. Just creating a little tension on the top. That's going to help build the gluten. Okay. And I'm just going to set it down. Alright. I'm going to grab a... When I used to use my KitchenAid, I would just let this rise in the bowl of the KitchenAid, but I don't do that in that other one. So I'm just going to add a little bit of olive oil to my counter. My counter's clean, y'all. Okay. I'm just going to brush the top. I don't want to get a dry, nasty crust on the edge of this bread. On the outside. I want it to rise and just stay really soft. Okay, so all right. I'm going to cover this with a tea towel. Okay, so this is actually a flour sack towel. You can get these at Walmart. I think they're like $1 each. You can get them in a big old pack of like 15 or 20. So anyway, I'm just going to cover this. I use this for all kinds of stuff. Anyway, it's clean. I'm just going to sit this here and, so dust or anything doesn't get on it. I'm just going to let that rise for like a half an hour. Okay, and while I do that, I'm going to go ahead and strain out this chicken broth, and then we will get on to making the gumbo. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this. So I have this, another tea towel, and I'm just going to lay this over. I have a strainer and a tea pitcher. I'm just going to lay this over here. And I'm just going to strain it through that. Make sure I don't overflow. Okay, I'm good. Okay, that's going to get all the little bits and stuff in there that I just don't want to have in my gumbo. Alright. So you can see here, that is a super duper nice broth. Look how yellow it is. Very nice. And then here's all the meaty bits and stuff that I don't want in there. The rest of that broth will go ahead and finish straining through here. And then I'll scrape this stuff off into the trash and then just wash it really good with my soap. And then it'll go in the washing machine. But anyway, so I got that part done. I'm going to clean up this pot and then we're going to start making the roux. That takes a while. So we'll be back to start that in just a minute. Okay, so now we're going to make the roux, which is the base of a gravy. It's a flour and oil mixture. So for the record, I'm just going to say, today for this I'm going to be using this Crisco vegetable shortening. I do not ever use this for any other cooking except for gumbo. This stuff is so bad for you. But I've made gumbo with olive oil and sunflower oil, all kinds of different oils, and you just can't beat Crisco for this. So we just poison ourselves once a year. It's good, or once in a while. Okay, so now I'm trying to find my spatula. I need a big one, or a long, long spoon. All right, I'm coming, y'all. Okay, so this is about 16 ounces of vegetable oil. Alright, we're going to get this burner turned on. This is a, before it gets hot, I'm going to show you. This is a, I call it my gumbo pot, but it's a double bottomed pot. It's got a real super heavy duty bottom. You do not want to try to do this in one of those thin little aluminum pans or something, or even a thin stainless steel. You need a double bottom on this pot. Okay, we're gonna get all this out of here. This is the hard part. That's kind of hard for me to do a recipe if somebody asks me for a recipe, because I just kind of eyeball this. But I'm gonna try to keep track of how much flour and stuff I'm using so that I can tell y'all what's in here. Alright, we're going to scrape out every little bit. Alright, so we got 2 cups of shortening. I really need to get me a whisk. And before I get started, I'm just going to tell you, you're going to have to open the doors and open the windows because this gets smoky. So hang on one second, I'm going to go open the door. Okay, so got the front door open. I got my window open here in the kitchen so we can get some airflow in here. Otherwise, we end up having the fire alarm going off. Okay, so I'm going to try to show y'all this, but I don't want to get this camera too close to my stove. Anyway, got all my fats, my oil melting down in there. And we're going to wait till this gets super hot. I want this grease super hot before I put that flour in here. I got everything on standby. Everything's ready. Once you start this process, you can't walk away from the stove. You got to stay here and watch it. And so what we're going to do is get this up to a real hot temperature. And then I'm going to start with equal parts. So like 2 cups of flour. I'm going to start with that and see if that's enough. And I'm going to stir this and whisk it. And basically what we're going to do is I'm going to cook that flour. And we're going to try to get the flour in grease mixture slowly. You can't rush this process. Slowly you get that flour and grease to the color of like dark chocolate. The darker you make your roux, but you can't burn it. You can't scorch it. If you start getting little black flakes in it where it's burning, then you gotta pull your pan off the stove, cool stuff down, turn your fire down or whatever. You don't want this to cook fast. You want to slowly cook that flour and grease. While this is getting hot, I'm going to pour my coffee. This bread is rising real nice over here. Bread dough. Okay. We're getting pretty hot. I don't know if you can see, we're kind of getting some steam up here. smoke up here in the fan. I'm sorry that fan's so loud. Okay, so let's start out with 2 cups of flour. Ooh, that ain't really hot enough. Alright, we got equal parts. 2 cups of grease and 2 cups of flour in here. Alright, it's starting to boil. Or bubble. Now, a lot of times, or most of the time when you go to a restaurant or something and you order gumbo, it's going to come out like a soup consistency. I, however, prefer my gumbo to have more of a stew. So I don't like my roux to be watery, or my gravy to be watery. I want it to be on the thicker side. So I'm started in this process. You know, it's funny. I don't ever use this grease. This just smells funny to me. Because I don't ever use this grease for anything but making gumbo. Alright, so I'm just going to sit here and stir and stir and stir. I'm going to pause this video and just bring you back every now and then so you can see what it looks like. I think I'm going to have to add some more. So I'm going to add about another half a cup of flour. I can tell that's not going to be enough. That's a little too much. Okay, so that's 2.5 cups of flour now. Yeah, that's going to be good, I think. Okay, so let me see if I can get you to look in here. Okay, now I got this cooking. I'm just going to sit here and stir this. Sometimes I'll take it off the burner if it's getting too hot. I have injured myself pretty bad one time making this. All my Colorado friends can tell you about that. But I'm just going to keep stirring this until it's the color of dark chocolate. But I'll bring you back in just a minute. Okay, I'm continuing to stir. And look, you cannot walk away from this. You have to constantly stir this. Because if you let this sit on the bottom of the pan without stirring it, it'll scorch. And you may as well just throw it out and start all over. Because it tastes bad. So I'll tell you about my entry while I'm stirring this. So, when I was in my early 20s, I had some friends over and we was going to have a gumbo dinner. With all my friends from church. And I had this pot. I've had this pot. This is the same pot I was using. But I only had 1 tea pitcher back then, and I had tea in it. So when I strained off my chicken and did what I just did, put the chicken broth in here, I didn't have a pitcher to put it in. So I put it in a glass bowl. And I set it to the side. Everything was fine. Then nothing happened to the bowl. But when I got to the point where I poured the water into the roux, it makes like this huge, forceful poof of crazy hot steam that comes up out of the bottom. So I was holding my bowl like this, and I dumped the water in. And as I went to dump the water out, I think my hands are about like this. That steam just came up and went right up underneath all of my fingernails on one of my hands. And it took all the skin off my hand. When I pulled my hand out and I dropped that bowl, because it was like, at first it was just like this crazy pain, and then it didn't hurt at all. And then I looked down and my hand looked like I had a white rubber glove on it. It was atrocious. And so it took all the skin off of this hand. And my friend Corey she took me to the ER, and we sat there for hours and hours and hours waiting to get seen. And they ended up bandaging up, putting some Silvadene cream on there. And it was very painful. So now just to know, when you're pouring water into this pot with this hot roux, you do it with something with a handle, and you stand back. Because can definitely, I mean, it's just like any other cooking, you know, if you don't take precautions and you try to make shortcuts and stuff, you're going to get hurt. So anyway, I don't know if you can tell because this lighting is terrible, but my roux's taking on a little bit of some color. I'm going to actually add a little bit more flour because that, so now we're going to say that I have 2 cups of grease and 3 cups of flour. And we're gonna go with that. And probably I have a bigger gumbo pot that I got from my sister, and I think probably once I get all the water and the roux and stuff in here, I'm gonna have to pour this into a bigger pot. I don't think all my gumbos will fit in this pot. Okay, so I'm gonna get this sun brown and then I'll bring you back. Okay, so I'm gonna try to let you see what's going on in here. This lighting is really terrible. I'm going to turn this light off for a second and see if it's better. No, it's not. Anyway, so this is probably about the color now of, I don't know, maybe a pork gravy or something like that, what you would expect for like a pork dish. This is some crazy hot stuff, y'all. Crazy hot. Okay, it's starting to brown. This really, the longer you cook this and the darker you get, that's what's going to really make the main flavor of your gumbo. That's like the signature of gumbo is the roux. This is just going to be the chicken and sausage gumbo. Sometimes people like to do like a seafood gumbo, but usually I have a lot left over and I don't like the taste of reheated gumbo if it's got seafood in it. So I usually don't add it unless I know we're having a large crowd and it's all going to be eaten that night or that day. So I don't usually add seafood. I usually just stick to chicken and sausage. Alright, I'm going to bring you back here in just a minute when we get a little bit more color. Okay, so a lot's changed here just the last couple of seconds. Okay, so most of the moisture out of that grease has cooked off. So it's really dried up. This is going to get pretty dry, and then it's just going to loosen up again. So it won't stay thick and choppy like this. It'll loosen up. But it's really starting to cook. I'm going to turn down the fire because I think it's heating up a little bit too fast. So hold on. Okay, so this is like some seriously intense heat. You see that smoke coming off of here? You see how it's gotten really dry. You have got to keep it moving. Keep it moving. But you also want to do this carefully because you don't want to be splashing this stuff up on your skin because it is hot. Okay. It's cooking. It's getting some good brown color on it now. This is about the color of like what you would want on a chicken gravy. It's not near dark enough. Okay, we'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I actually took it off the burner because even turning the burner down wasn't letting it cool off or letting it come down enough. So I just took it off. I'm going to keep on stirring. But you can see it's kind of getting to be... This lighting is really terrible. But it's a little bit darker brown. It's probably about the color of a milk chocolate. I'm going to see if I turn this flash on. That's better. Somewhat better. And it's about the color of a milk chocolate. We want dark chocolate. It won't take long to get there from here. We're just about getting there. These glass top stoves, I'm telling you what, everything just slides all over. I'll be right back. When we get it to about the right color, I'll be back. Okay, so after I burned myself that one time, for a while there I was a little intimidated to make gumbo. And so I would pull the roux off the burner like this and let it cool down so that there wasn't such a dramatic poof of steam. And I added it in there with it a little less, you know, dangerous. But no, it's not. I got over it, y'all. I got over it. Okay, so you can see now this is still a little bit darker than milk chocolate, but it's not where we want it. So I'm going to move this back onto the burner because I want it to heat up a little bit better. We need some more heat. Let's see if I can bring you over here. And I'm using my spatula, I'm scraping down the sides to keep everything, you know, getting incorporated. And here, I want to show you. I don't know if you can see this, but look, it really loosened up again. It's loose. Hey, it bit me right there, y'all. Okay. So it's more, almost like the consistency of pudding now. So it all came back together. It's not choppy and crumbly like it was a minute ago. It's all loosened up, so that lets me know my flour's cooking and I'm not burning it, I'm cooking it. I mean, you could probably turn this up on high and get this done real quick, but it's not going to taste good. But we're getting there. I'll be back in a minute when it's more, well, when it's darker. Okay, y'all, we're getting there. I pulled this off the burner so I could mess with this camera. Okay, let's see. We're going to put it back on here. And move y'all over. Okay, you can see it's kind of getting darker. Y'all, this is really good if you want to do this to make like a beef stew or something like that. Any real nice, hearty, beefy, or even chicken, any kind of stew, you can do your roux this way. It is so good. Alright, it's coming around. It's taking a while, but it takes probably about a half an hour or so to get your roux ready. And it's hot. It's a hot process, so usually it's got to be a pretty special event for me to cook this in the summer. Because it's hot standing in this kitchen, but my bread is loving that. My bread rising over there. As soon as we get the water in here, we'll go to the next step on the bread. Just start letting this roux soak up, you know, the water turn that roux into a gravy, but that's gonna be a few minutes. So I'll be back when it's ready to add the water. I want to also mention, if you decide you like the taste of this roux, you can make this like a super batch. Like you can make this, and then once you get to the point where you're going to add the water, you can just take it off the stove and let it cool down, and then you could just, after it's cool, you put it in some mason jars, and you could store that in the refrigerator or in the freezer. If you want to make it shelf stable, you'd have to look up what the how long the processing is for pressure canning it. They sell roux in Louisiana in a can, so obviously it can be canned. But you can, you know, pre-measure this out. If it's completely cold, you could store it in a freezer bag. Store it in the freezer. And then all you have to do is warm it up, get it hot, and then add your water, and boom, your gravy's done already. I never plan ahead like that. Every time I make gumbo, I think, I'm going to make some roux for next time, and I don't. But maybe, you know what, maybe this is just part of it, you know. Making gumbo for your family. It's a pretty special event. Everybody loves it. It's kind of rare. We don't have this but maybe 2 or 3 times a year. I used to make a big old pot of this and send it with my husband to work for his work buddies. But it was a little bit difficult transporting, so I just make them a mess of jambalaya. And I send him with like 4 big old turkey pans, 3 turkey pans of jambalaya, and a bunch of French bread. And that's my contribution to the guys at the paper mill once a year. But anyway, it's getting around. It's coming around. This lighting is really bad. Let's see. Yeah, you can't see. Anyway, we're getting to be about there. And you don't want to, you want to really make sure you're doing this slowly, because if you just let it get too dark too fast, then it just tastes burnt. And we don't want it to taste burnt. We want it to taste like gumbo. But it does smell good, y'all. It's good. And like I said, you can use other oils and stuff. It's just going to taste a little bit different depending on, depending on which oil you use. I would prefer to use olive oil, but once you get their olive oil up to this temperature, you already made it bad. It's not going to have any good benefits left in it anyway. So this is super duper hot. I wish I had my laser thermometer. That might be interesting. Let me pull this off of here. I'm going to go see if I can find that. Okay, I found it. Alright, let's see. This is 390 degrees. 393 degrees. Hot stuff. Okay, now it's going to go to another, when it's, right as it's starting to get ready, it's going to start separating again, and it's going to kind of go look gritty. And my thing is, if it looks like it's about ready, give it another 10 minutes. You don't want to dump all this broth in here and then end up where you have a real light brown gumbo, because if it's the wrong color, it ain't going to taste right. It's coming around. It's getting there. I hope this color shows up better than it is on my little screen right now. If you can see the color transition happening. And when you go to pour this, the chicken, you can use chicken broth you bought from the store if you want. You can use water from the sink. You don't have to use a broth. It just adds a lot of extra flavor, and I feel like it adds a lot of good nutrients from that chicken broth, the homemade stuff. But when you pour the water in here, you want to, whatever your liquid, you want to pour it in here. You don't want to dump it in, because you obviously don't want to splash all on yourself. But you also don't want to pour it slowly. You want to pour it kind of at a fast pace so that you can get that boil up over this, so it's not spitting grease hot grease on you. And make sure that you have everything you need right around you so you don't have to be walking off and leaving it. Make sure you have plenty of water. I'm going to have to probably have more water than that. I will have to have more water than this. But I also want to factor in the fact that I'm going to be adding a lot of fresh vegetables to this, and there'll be some water content in that. I'm going to be adding tomato sauce to this. I'm going to be adding cans of Rotel tomatoes. There's also liquid in that, so I don't want to add too much water. And once I get all my veggies and stuff added in here, if it's too thick, I'll add a little bit of water at a time. Y'all, can you see this? Now this is, and it's almost there. It's getting there. Okay. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit and start letting this cool off a hair. Because I really want to be able to, y'all can't see my house, but my whole, it looks like I got a fog, a fog advisory in my house. And that's with the windows open. Okay, so let me scoot you over. I'm gonna just scoot this over. Let's see if I can do this without making a mess. Alright. I'm gonna go ahead and add this water. Or the broth. You're gonna see what I'm talking about, y'all. We gotta do this kind of fast. Just keep on pouring, keep on pouring, keep on pouring, and keep your hands out the way. Alright, we're going to let that kind of calm down before we go to stir that, alright? Because we don't want to burn ourselves. I got some more water going in that pitcher just in case it's too thick. Y'all see that? That can get you going, alright? Alright, so now we have, let me grab this. I'll turn this oven off, or the sink off. Okay. Were y'all scared? Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to move this back onto the burner. Okay, y'all come back over here. Y'all look at that silky gravy now. Okay, that is good. Okay, I'm just letting that that water and all that kind of mix with that. And we're going to see how thick it is. Because I really, really, really don't want this soupy. I like it thick. Okay. I'm going to let this do its thing. I'm going to open up my tomatoes and all that, and we'll be right back. Okay, ready? Alright, here we go. Okay, so now I'm going to add in, I'm going to get this heat back up. I'm going to turn this on high because I want this to get this boiling. Okay, so I did add a little splash of water because it was getting a little thick. And I don't want it, I still don't want it to burn and stick to the bottom of this pan. Hot. And see, I could have gone a little bit darker with that roux still. Alright, so we're going to add, this is just original Rotel tomatoes. I'm going to add a couple of cans of those. And y'all, look, if you make gumbo and this isn't how you do it, you just do it how you do it, and I'm going to do how I do it. Everybody loves my gumbo, and that's what I'm going to say. Okay, I'm going to add some tomato sauce. And I'm going to add a can of diced tomatoes with the juice. See what I'm saying? We're adding a lot of liquids up in here, so we don't want to add too much to the gravy portion. Alright. We're going to switch to the spoon. Alright, now we're going back to our spoon. I'm going to wipe off this grease off. I don't want any Crisco floating around in the top of my food. Yeah. Okay. Alright, we're going to give that a stir. Okay, now we're going to add some of our, we're going to start adding some seasonings. I'm going to add some Tony Chachere's, Tony C's, So sometimes, the way I used to do it is I would get all this made, and then after everything is in here, I would add my raw chicken in here, like chicken legs and chicken thighs. This is really best with dark meat. But, and then I would just let that chicken cook in this. Then you have to pull the chicken out and debone it and get all the fat and put it back in here. And that's just, to me, it just seemed like a lot of work. And I wanted to be able to, I like to be able to strain out some of the stuff that comes out in your chicken broth. So we're going to add some Tony Chachere's. They do have, with the Tony Chachere's and the Rotel tomatoes, this will be alright for me to eat tomorrow. It will not, it'll be too hot, too spicy for me to eat it. Okay, that's pretty good. That's a really good consistency. It's not like so, because I still have to add all those raw vegetables in here, and all the juices from those vegetables is going to come into there. Okay, we're going to add some salt. We're going to add some pepper. Stir that around. And y'all, I don't do crushing garlic and peeling it and all that myself. I just get this stuff here. It's minced garlic and water. And I'm going to put a big old couple of heaping teaspoons of garlic in here. This is going to be a big old pot, okay? Alright, so we got the garlic going in there. I'm going to add some parsley. Normally I like to get fresh parsley, but I forgot to pick that up. So I'm going to put some parsley in there. Stir that in. I do prefer fresh parsley for sure. Alright, now I'm just going to dump all this in here. You're going to see what's going to happen to this pot. Hopefully it's big enough. Okay. So this has got two different kinds of onions. It's got green onions and yellow onions. And it's got a whole bunch of celery with the greens, with the green tops on it. And it's got 3 big old bell peppers. Okay. I'm going to stir all that in there. And you know, sometimes if it looks like there's not enough veggies in there, I'll cut up some more and put in there. And then I'm going to put in a large bag of cut okra. And we're going to stir that in there. See? Y'all see why you have to have a big old pot? I haven't even added the meat in here yet. I think it'll all fit though. I think it's going to fit fine in this pot. Now what I'm going to do is, we're going to get all that, the meat put in here. I'm going to put the lid on this, and I'm just going to let it simmer all day. It's going to be cooking all day. If it gets a little bit too thin, where I think it's getting too soupy, then I'll add a little bit of tomato paste to try to thicken it up a little bit. So it's taken me about an hour to get here now. I already had all that stuff cut up. That took a little while. But we're just gonna let this just sit here and warm up. Have a drink, a cup of coffee. And this chicken is really still super hot, so I'm not gonna burn myself trying to get this in here. I'm gonna let it cool off. This is fine to sit here. I can add this whenever, as long as I got something keeping it from getting dried. Alright. Okay, so I'm going to go take a little break, and then we're going to come back and do this. Actually, let's see. We need to look at this bread. And my coffee creamer. Okay, so let's see. We're going to look at this bread, because it is very heavy. We're going to set that egg aside. I think we're going to have to get this in the oven pretty soon. So, let me check my oven. Of course. 1 second. Okay, so I got my aluminum pan here. It's just an aluminum baking sheet, no big deal. I don't want to cook my food in aluminum. So I'm going to get some parchment paper on there. Alright, let's see what this dough looks. Look at that, y'all. Oh my gosh. She is huge. Look at that. Okay. Alright, let's see. We're going to punch that down. This is going to make, I'm going to make 2 large loaves out of this. I'm going to get my cutter. We're going to cut this in half-ish. Alright, I'm going to wrap one up. And set it aside. This one, I'm going to take it and spread this out. My kitchen is so warm right now. So we're going to just set this, push this into, spread this out into a, somewhat of a rectangle. Hopefully I didn't let it rise for too long. This recipe for this bread, you can also divide this up into 4 equal portions, and it makes a really great, like a cast iron skillet pizza. Great pizza crust. Okay. So now I'm going to take this and we're going to just start folding it into a loaf. And I'm kind of just pinching and just tucking it tight. Again, I got this recipe. I learned how to do this bread from the Needy Homesteader, Heather at the Needy Homesteader. Anyway, so I'm going to push it together. And then I'm going to take it, I'm going to pull the front up and tuck it into the middle like that. And we're just going to pinch it to seal off that end. And we're going to pinch it all the way across. Do the same on the other end. Okay. I'm going to roll it over and just give a little smoosh. Some pressure and try to get this where there's really not a crease. We're gonna use we're gonna score this so that, you know, either 3 or 5 depending on how big they are. We're gonna score these so that they have their venting marks. Okay. I'm going to lay this on my cookie sheet like that. Okay, now we're going to do the second. Okay, second one. I'm going to see if this is easier with that rolling pin. I'm going to roll this out. You can add anything you want to this bread. When you're adding in your salt into the recipe, that's when you would just add in any seasonings you want. If you wanted to make a rosemary and olive oil bread, that'd be good. You could add some rosemary to it. Everything bagel seasoning is really good on this bread. Alright, so we kind of got it into a roughly a rectangle. Alright, we're just going to start rolling it. And I'm just kind of tucking and pinching. And just make sure you spread this end out so that it covers the full, so it's the same length. And just roll it over, stretch it out. You're going to take the end and tuck it in and pinch it closed. Same on this side. I'm going to tuck it in and pinch it closed. And we're going to just pinch it all the way across. Alright, I'm just going to roll it out. And sometimes when you do that, it'll end up being a lot fatter on one end than the other. And I just kind of roll it to try to get it, push this end down, stretch this one out, and just kind of manipulate it until it's about even on both sides, on both ends. Our end is closed up. We have to work on that one a little bit more. When you're cooking this, if you don't close up these ends, it'll just as it's cooking, it's just going to blow out. You'll have a big old blowout. Okay, so there's our 2 loaves. Okay, I'm going to stick this on here. And you want them to have, let's switch over. I think it's a little better light here. Okay. You want to make sure that your loaves aren't like this long because they need some room to grow, you know, to expand in the oven. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to brush the tops of these with the egg wash. And then this, once you get the egg wash on, that would be the time that you go ahead and add any seasonings that you want to the top of your loaf. So we're just going to give this an egg wash, a little bath. Okay. And the next one. Oven's ready. While you're doing this, if you happen to see like air bubbles forming on the top, you just want to pinch those and get those air bubbles out. Okay. Now I'm not going to put any more anything on top of this, you know, herb-wise, because I already have it in the bread. But I do want to add some sea salt. I'm just going to sprinkle the top with a little with this sea salt. And this is kind of large. I've got this set on a large grind. Okay. Now the last thing we're going to do, this is the fun part. I'm going to turn this gumbo down while I'm over here. Okay, so now we want to get a really sharp knife or a lime, and we're just going to do some cuts. And I think on this one, we'll do 5 cuts. So I'm going to go in the middle, and then we'll do 2 more, and then 2 more. And that is so that pressure can release from the bread as it's cooking, and hopefully it won't blow out on the sides or from the bottom and you just have this crazy bread. Okay, so that's where we are. We're going to put this in the oven for about 20 minutes and they should be ready. So I'm going to bring you back when that's ready, but I'll show you real quick. The gumbo is cooking up real nice. It looks good, y'all. It smells good. It looks good. You gotta keep on stirring so everything doesn't stick to the bottom. We're going to turn this way down. I just want it to simmer. I don't want it to be boiling all day. I just want it to simmer. If I had a crock pot this big, I'd put it in the crock pot. But, alright. Well, I will bring you back when this bread is done, and then we'll start working on the cobbler. Okay, so I'm going to show y'all quick. I got the chicken added in here, and the sausage. And look how it filled up this pot. I don't have any idea how in the world to make this gumbo in a small pot. I got to have at least this size. But it is very full. I mean, when you eat this gumbo, you're not going to get a bunch of soup. You're going to put this on a bed of rice. I even have some potato salad in the oven, in the refrigerator. Have you a side of potato salad? Big old bowl of gumbo, some Italian French bread, Italian French, garlic and herb, French bread. It's going to be a good night, and we can eat on this all week if we wanted to. But we'll eat on it till everybody gets sick of it, and then after that, we'll freeze what we got left over. So, we got about 9 minutes left on the bread. As soon as it comes out, I'll show you that. And I'll probably just do the cobbler in a different video. So, we've been together for about an hour, right at an hour. And I got dinner ready, and the kitchen's mostly clean. So, we'll be back when they take the bread out of the oven in about 9 minutes. Okay, y'all, it's ready. We're going to take this out of the oven. Let y'all see what's going on. If I can figure out this camera. Okay. Let's see if I can expand that out. Nope. Okay. So anyway, there we go. Alright, let's take this bread out. Hush up this timer real quick. Get my coffee out of the way. And set this here. I'm going to just turn it that way. Okay, let's take this out. Okay. Alright, y'all, look, here's our bread. Turn off the oven. Alright, here's our 2 loaves of bread. Look at that. Isn't that great? Y'all, look how pretty. You can see, I don't know if you can see it, the little salt crystals on the top. We did pretty good. This one didn't blow up or anything on the side. A little bit on the side, not much. The key to having really good bread is you have to let it cool before you cut it completely. If you cut the bread before it's cooled off, what happens, this is with any bread, when you cut it, you let all the steam out. And after the steam gets out of there, then you end up with a really great, yummy, buttery, hot bread out of the oven for the first slice or 2, and the rest of it's going to be dry. So this is the second loaf. You could easily split this batch into 4 and make 4 smaller baguettes. Same recipe. And then you could do 4 different smaller baguettes, all seasoned differently. Have a plain one, have one that's on the sweet side. You could have, rosemary, Italian, you could even fold in some Parmesan or Romano cheeses into the dough and cook it, and then have a cheesy bread. So, I mean, you just take this recipe and you can just do all kinds of stuff with it. But anyway, it was at 425 for 20 minutes. So what you have to do to check the internal temperature of so some people think, well, what if it's not cooked on the inside? What you want to do is get a food thermometer like this one, and the internal temperature of any cooked bread is going to be about 190. So I'm just going to stick it in the biggest part of the biggest place, and it should be about 190. If it's not, but your bread is browning too fast, you can cover it with foil and stick it back in the oven for another 5 minutes or so, which this one is not ready, so I'm going to have to put this one back in the oven. And this one also needs probably another 5 minutes. So, but anyway, I'm going to stick these back in the oven for just a few minutes, let them finish off, but you can top them with foil to keep them from burning on the top. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do another video for you with the cobbler later, and then later I'll show you a picture of what our dinner is going to look like. But my battery's dying, so I got to charge this camera. And I thank y'all for hanging out with me for over an hour. Have a great day, y'all.